Part 3. Modern Jewishness and Universal Belonging. Welcome to the final part of We Are All Jews. So far, we've gone from the universal call of the Bible through the divided world of Jesus and the rise of Rabbinic Judaism. Now, in Part 3, we turn to the modern world, Reform, Orthodox, Conservative, Renewal, Karaite and Humanistic Judaism, the politics of the law of return, and the paradoxes of identity in the State of Israel. Most importantly, we'll ask if Jewishness is more than blood or bureaucracy, if it is a calling to justice and compassion, then in what sense might we all be Jews? Modern identity and law of return. This brings me to the modern understanding of who is a Jew and why I claim that we are all Jews. Today, Judaism is not a single uniform tradition, but a rich tapestry of different movements. Each one holds its own understanding of faith, law and practice, shaped by centuries of history, culture and debate. Let's take a closer look at the major denominations you'll find in Jewish life today. We begin with Orthodox Judaism, the largest traditional stream. This includes Haredi or ultra-Orthodox communities, Hasidic groups, modern or centrist Orthodoxy, and religious Zionist. At its heart, Orthodoxy holds that the Torah, both the written text and the oral traditions recorded in the Talmud, is the direct and eternal word of God. Jewish law, known as halakha, is absolute and can only change through established rabbinic precedent. In Orthodox synagogues, men and women usually sit separately. Strict Sabbath rules are observed without electricity or instruments, and kosher dietary laws are fully upheld. Women cannot ordinarily become rabbis, though some modern Orthodox communities have created limited clergy roles for women, known as maharat. Orthodox Judaism also does not permit same-sex marriage. Jewish identity is traced through the mother, and conversions are generally only recognized if carried out under Orthodox authority. While religious Zionists are strongly supportive of the modern state of Israel, some Haredi groups remain ambivalent or even oppose political Zionism altogether. Next is Conservative Judaism, called Masorti Judaism in the UK and Europe. This movement seeks a balance between tradition and change. It teaches that the Torah is divine in origin, but its interpretation has evolved through history. Jewish law remains binding, but is understood to be adaptable through careful scholarship. Conservative synagogues usually have mixed seating. Prayers may be in both Hebrew and the local language, and some permit limited driving to reach synagogue on the Sabbath. Women can become rabbis, and same-sex marriages are widely accepted. Like Orthodoxy, Jewish identity is still traced through the mother, and conversions must follow halakhic standards. Conservative communities are broadly supportive of Israel, but value pluralism and open debate. Reform Judaism, known as Progressive Judaism in the UK, is represented mainly by the movement for Reform Judaism and Liberal Judaism. This branch sees the Torah as a human record of Israel's experience of God, with ethics and moral values taking precedence over ritual law. Halakha is not binding here. Instead, individual choice plays a central role in religious life. Services typically feature mixed seating, music, and instruments, with much of the liturgy in English. Both Reform and Liberal congregations fully include women and LGBTQ+ people as rabbis and in marriage rights. Liberal Judaism accepts patrilineal descent, meaning a child of a Jewish father can be recognized as Jewish if raised in the faith, and UK Reform often follows similar guidelines, depending on the congregation. These communities are strongly supportive of Israel, while also emphasizing universal social justice values. We then have Reconstructionist Judaism, a smaller, mainly North American movement. It views Judaism not simply as a religion, but as an evolving civilization, shaped by history and culture as much as faith. Belief in God may be understood metaphorically, and Jewish law is seen as guidance rather than commandment. Communities are fully egalitarian, often include patrilineal descent, and use democratic decision-making in religious matters. They are generally supportive of Israel, but are willing to challenge state policies that conflict with Jewish ethics. Jewish renewal is a spiritual revival movement that emerged in the late 20th century, drawing inspiration from Hasidic mysticism, meditation, music, and progressive ethics. It seeks a deeply personal, joyful, and egalitarian form of Jewish life. Chanting, dancing, and contemplative prayer are common features of renewal gatherings. Humanistic Judaism takes a different path entirely. It offers a secular, non-theistic approach, celebrating Jewish culture, ethics, and community without reference to God. Traditional ceremonies and festivals are adapted to focus on human meaning and shared values. Equality between men, women, and LGBTQ+ individuals is fully embraced. Outside the rabbinic tradition, Karaite Judaism represents an ancient alternative path. Karaites accept only the written Torah as divine law, rejecting rabbinic authority and the Talmud. They interpret scripture literally and collectively, with their own religious calendar, distinctive practices, and conversion process. Their customs often differ dramatically from mainstream Judaism. For example, they do not use tefillin and observe festivals on different dates. Finally, there is the Samaritan community, a small but enduring group claiming descent from the ancient Israelites. Samaritans preserve their own version of the Torah and consider Mount Gerizim, not Jerusalem, their holiest site. Historically led by hereditary priesthood, they once practiced sacrifices long abandoned by other Jews. Today, they live mainly in Israel and the West Bank, maintaining strict traditions and historically closed, endogamous community. Each of these denominations reflects a different way of answering the same timeless question. What does it mean to be Jewish? What authority does the Torah hold? How should Jewish law shape modern life? Epilogue. We are all Jews. In 1950, just 2 years after the birth of the modern state of Israel, the law of return was passed. Its promise was simple yet profound. Every Jew has the right to come to this country as an immigrant. It was designed as a safeguard, ensuring that after centuries of exile and, most recently, the horrors of the Holocaust, no Jew would ever be without a home again. 2 decades later, in 1970, the law was amended to broaden its reach. It extended this right not only to Jews by birth, but also to the children and grandchildren of Jews and to their spouses. It even included those who identified as Jewish culturally or by heritage alone, regardless of whether they were observant or even believed in God. A person could be completely secular, with no religious practice at all, and still have an unquestioned right to Israeli citizenship under this law, so long as they had a Jewish parent or grandparent. There was, however, one line drawn firmly in the sand. Anyone who had been born Jewish but had voluntarily converted to another religion was no longer entitled to this automatic right of return. Conversion. One striking feature of the law of return is that it recognizes non-Orthodox conversions, including Reform and conservative conversions, for the purposes of immigration. A person who has no Jewish ancestry can still qualify for Aliyah if they convert under a recognized Jewish community, whether Orthodox, conservative, or Reform. But here's where the disparity appears. Reform conversion, especially outside Israel, is defined far more broadly than Orthodox or even conservative standards. Candidates undergo a course of study, often lasting several months to a year, learning Jewish history, ethics, holidays, and core beliefs. They make a public declaration of faith in the God of Israel, commit to joining the Jewish people, and immerse in a mikveh, a ritual bath, to mark their conversion. Unlike Orthodox conversion, Reform usually does not require full observance of every halakha commandment, lifelong kosher practice, or adherence to Orthodox interpretations of Sabbath law. It places greater emphasis on belief, values, and sincere commitment to Jewish life and community. Under these standards, a person can be recognized by the Israeli state as Jewish for immigration purposes after a Reform conversion, even if the Orthodox Rabbinate in Israel does not accept that same person as Jewish for marriage, burial, or other religious services. This means that someone with no Jewish ancestry at all, or someone who lives a largely secular life but sincerely embraces the ethical and spiritual call of Judaism, can qualify for Aliyah under the law of return. Meanwhile, a strictly observant Reform Jew, or a grandchild of a Jew with no personal faith, can also qualify, even if neither would be recognized as halakhically Jewish by Orthodox authorities. The paradox of identity. The result is a patchwork definition of Jewishness. Civilly, under Israeli law, Jewish identity can rest on ancestry, marriage, or even a Reform conversion rooted primarily in faith and ethics. Religiously, under Orthodox control, Jewish identity is determined strictly by matrilineal descent or Orthodox conversion, excluding many who are legally considered Jews by the state. It creates moments of deep contradiction. A person can be Jewish enough to find sanctuary, to build a life in Israel, to serve in its army, even to die for the country, but not Jewish enough to be married or buried as a Jew on Israeli soil. And it leaves a profound question hanging over the Jewish world. Who decides what it means to be a Jew? Is it lineage, ritual conformity, or belief and moral action? The Prophetic Vision. This paradox would have been unrecognizable to the prophets of Israel. The Hebrew Bible never reduces covenant to paperwork or bloodline. Instead, it speaks of a living relationship with God, written not on certificates, but on the human heart. In Genesis chapter 17, verse 1, God says, "Walk before me and be blameless." In Micah chapter 6, verse 8, the prophet declares, "He has told you, O man, what is good, to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God." The essence of Jewishness has always been a calling, not a category. Emmanuel Levinas reminds us, to be Jewish is to be infinitely responsible for the other. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, former chief rabbi of the UK, writes, "Identity is not what we are called, but what we are called to do." This is a vision of Jewishness that cannot be confined to lineage checks, rabbinic approvals, or bureaucratic rulings. It is a way of life, a response to the divine call to love God, to love our neighbour, to pursue justice and mercy. Reform Judaism. This is the heart that Reform Judaism seeks to recover. Jewishness as a matter of faith in God, or the ultimate source of all creation, ethics and belonging, open to anyone who chooses to walk in this covenant of truth and love. The process of Reform conversion reflects this simplicity, study, commitment, immersion, and a heartfelt declaration of faith in the God of Israel and his values. It is not about heritage or bloodline, but about who you are choosing to be. And these principles are not uniquely Jewish. They echo the 7 Noahide laws, the rabbinic tradition for all humanity. Honor the one God, reject idolatry and bloodshed, avoid cruelty, uphold justice, treat life as sacred. They echo Jesus' own words, love the Lord your God with all your heart and love your neighbour as yourself. By this standard, a Christian, a Muslim, a seeker of truth in any faith tradition who believes there is an ultimate source of all creation, the creator of the Big Bang, in one God, and walks a path of ethics and compassion, is already living the deepest meaning of Judaism, whether or not they carry the name. The journey of every soul. Jewish mysticism in Ezekiel's vision of the Merkabah imagines the soul ascending towards divine light. Above the vault was what looked like a throne of sapphire. High above was a figure glowing like fire with radiance all around. This is not a journey for Jews alone. It is the human journey, wrestling with the ego, seeking truth, rising towards the divine presence. The call to walk humbly with God, to love justice and kindness, echoes in Hindu Dharma, Buddhist compassion, Taoist harmony, Sufi devotion, humanist ethics. It is a universal call to live in reverence and righteousness. We are all Jews. For at least 2,500 years, Judaism has been a people, a story, a covenant of action. Traditionally, to become Jewish meant entering that covenant fully, embracing Torah, joining the people, living the commandments. But today, particularly through Reformed Judaism and in the civil law of the modern Jewish state, Jewishness has broadened. It can be claimed by birth, by choice, by marriage, by belief, even by a secular person with Jewish ancestry who does not believe in God at all. It is not simply a tribal inheritance anymore. It has become a spectrum of belonging. This leaves us with a bigger question. Is being Jewish about lineage, law, or a way of life? If it is the latter, if it is truly about hearing God's call to do justice, love mercy, live humbly, then it is a path open to anyone, regardless of title, ancestry, or ritual. Perhaps Jewishness is not a label nor a passport category, but a divine calling to live in truth and kindness, to bear responsibility for others, to walk in light before God. The question is not, are you called a Jew? The real question is, will you live as one? Will you treat your fellow human beings, all of them, as you would like to be treated? If the answer is yes, then I say you are a Jew. In this deeper, truest sense, we are all Jews, or we are all invited to be. And finally, across this journey, we've seen Jewishness shift and stretch, from a covenant of justice in the Bible to fierce debates in Jesus' time, to rabbinic law, medieval diversity, and today's kaleidoscope of identities. Yet one truth remains. The heart of Jewishness has never been mere ancestry or ritual, but a way of life, a call to walk humbly with God, to love mercy and to do justice. If that is the measure, then Jewishness is not confined to one tribe, one land, or one label. It is a path open to all who will live it. In that deeper, truest sense, we are all Jews, or at least all invited to be. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this journey with me, and I hope you join me again soon. In the meantime, if you liked the video, please press like and do subscribe so that you're aware of when the next videos come out. I look forward to meeting you again.